All right, everybody. Hey, what's up? This is Jack with Spy Pie Gaming TV. I know that I haven't been around much here lately, but life happens sometimes, and I've been kind of dealing with some things. So um, I figured, I got a chance today to put out a video for everybody, and this video is really not going to be about what's in the video, but more about what I want to talk about, which is something I'll get into here in just a second. But just so everybody knows, Spy Pie Gaming TV puts out content around video games and the industry as a whole and events in the gaming community. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And when you decide whether or not you like the video, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Share, do all those things that helps us get the information that we want to provide, if I can speak correctly, to the players of the games that we feature on the channel. Anyhow, I kind of want to get into. I'm just going to go about a little bit of a daily routine that I got going on right now. But something I want to get into is meta. Meta is the reason I want to talk about it. Is it's something that inspires a great deal of just holy cow, I don't even really know what word to use. Animosity a lot of the times, toxicity, the things that it inspires a lot of the things that once causes people to, players to not want to play a game if there's too much of it going on. I just fell off in the water. All right, well, that's gonna slow me down anyway. But yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that because I think there's a good amount of wow, that was not cool. Something's going on with my internet. I think there's a good amount of misunderstanding around it. I think people have a certain view of what meta is, and so I want to start by getting a definition for it. So, just so we're all talking about the same exact thing. Meta, if you don't know, stands for, or is commonly accepted to stand for, the most effective tactics available. Okay? So, what does that mean exactly, and what decides it? Well, I'm going to go with, this is my answer. I'm going to go with meta is almost entirely dependent on your play style and what it is exactly that you want to get out of the game. So, like you guys are watching me right now, I'm clearing out these trash mobs. It's not all that big a deal. But I am most definitely not wearing meta DPS gear. And this is the sorcerer that once upon a time was a tank, by the way. Uh-oh, I need to eat some food. But I know Spy and myself, we run into a lot of situations where players are they're just really worked up about what everybody else is doing, and really it's one of those things that just kind of drives people away from wanting to play certain games. ESO, not just the ESO in particular either, by the way, there is pretty much any game like this suffers from it to some degree. And it's understandable. Yes, there is a in-game community accepted standard for what is like the best, particular setup or whatever for whatever it is you're doing. Now, something you don't hear a lot of people talk about is get my buffs right here. All right. Like, it changes. That's the thing. That's kind of the thing that I want to talk about. Or at least one of the things that I want to talk about is that meta changes depending on what it is that you're doing, right? Are you playing group? Is it a 4-man group? Is it a 2-man or a trial group? Is it a 12-man group? If it's a 12-man group, you're expected to bring a lot more with you. It's something that I think is taken in an extreme manner. And not really, it's not acknowledged as much as it should be. That did not go where I placed it. That's all right. Anyhow, so like right now I'm set up with a lower tier meta to solo dungeons, right? And I could be set up differently if I was in a group setting. If I was in a 4-man setting, I would definitely be set up differently, but maybe not. If I was in a trial setting, I can almost guarantee you I would be set up differently, because different people are bringing different things, and I know that, or at least should be able to expect it, right? Because you have a different, your goal is different. My goal right now is to make it through this dungeon without the help of anyone else. And I don't want to be a tank. I want to clear it rather quickly, at least somewhat. I am currently collecting a set, so I'm kind of taking it slow, looking for chests, things like that. And I'll be one of the first to admit, no, I am not the absolute best at light attack weaving. I'm not the best at a lot of stuff, but I do have a lot of experience playing games, and I get it. I get the point of the different roles that you may or may not have, right? So that's the wrong one. See, everybody makes mistakes from time to time. Anyhow, the big problem that I see with it, and the problem that I want, or the thing I guess that causes me want to address it, is, or at least bring it up in conversation, is so many people misunderstand what meta actually does for you. It is a way to optimize to get the outcome that you're looking for. Like in this game, for example, Elder Scrolls Online, there are titles that are associated with speed runs, no death runs, the trifectas, you do the hard modes and all that stuff. Oh my goodness. I hate this boss. He stuns so much. But, like, maybe I don't want to play in a group. Maybe I prefer solo play, because Elder Scrolls Online is most definitely one of of games that has a lot of solo content. Yes, it is an MMO. Yes, you should expect to run into some group content. Some of the games, some aspects of this game require that you do group content, and it's my personal belief that it should. It is an MMO, right? You knew that, or hopefully people that decided they were going to play the game knew that. If they didn't, like, I think maybe there was some misleading information. I don't know what exactly caused it, but hey, we're here now. But you have your random dailies, so you have your pickup groups for random dailies, right? That is likely to not be an optimized group. So that's where you get a lot of the, there's people that wear selfish sets and stuff like that. Like right now, this character is wearing the Ring of the Pale Order. That is a selfish thing. In fact, it is so selfish that it does not work effectively in groups, which is good, right? Like, that's fine. You have a healer with you. You should be able to depend on the healer. So you don't need the healing that the ring provides. Get rid of this trash. Come on. And then, so playstyle is probably the number one thing, actually, in my opinion, that decides, what the meta is. Because, like, what are you trying to do, right? Solo, group, 4-man trial, maybe you're crafting. I have a crafting build for this character due to the armory system, right? It's just is what it is. But each of those, it's hard to talk and play. I don't know why it's so hard to talk and play. I've noticed it though. Anyhow, each of those roles have a different meta. You have different, it goes all the way to into CPs. Like, it's real, right? It's different. And here's the thing, meta is just a commonly accepted idea. It's not set in stone that, hey, this is the best, period, right? So then you run into that. Like, pause for a second. I'm gonna stop for a second here because this is a boss fight. But here's, so for just to give a couple of examples. So Spy used to be a WoW player, right? He used to play World of Warcraft. I've heard him talk a lot about gear score, which caused a good amount of pain from like your best performance as your role standpoint, right? And it was because maybe the gear that gave you the best gear score, which guilds and things like that they would look at, and I can't get too deep into it because I didn't personally play the game, but they would look at that. But that particular gear may not cause you to be the most efficient and perform the best. Then there's Solus, or the healer that you see us run with every now and then. He was in the Dragonstar video. Him, myself, Spy, we have all played tabletop games. It literally takes one new model to be introduced in order for meta to change. Suddenly, the focus is on something else. It could be armor, and the introduction of the model may now be, maybe it's Constitution now. It's something different. ESO, for example, Spalder of Ruin, one of the more recent mythic items that came out. It's now, it's a pretty heavy like tank meta thing, and understandably so, right? It's a good piece. It's a very good piece. But does that mean it is the only way to do what you need to do? It doesn't. That's the thing. So there's that. I wanted to really bring this up mainly because I see it so often in dungeons and other pickup group type scenarios where it's just somebody's being real toxic about, hey, you're not doing, this is the best possible, so, this is the situation, this is what you should be doing. And like a lot of the time, they're really not doing it themselves. That's the thing, and you can tell because here's like, I don't know who saw Spy's video on the Warden build the other day. If you didn't, go watch it. He can pump 40k DPS. Now, yes, he was using a trial dummy, but the thing is, I've seen it. That's real. That 40k DPS shows up in dungeons. Like, it shows up in places like this. That's applicable damage. Now, you can go watch parsing videos, and that's a little different. And that's something that I think a lot of players, the greater majority, not everybody, but the greater majority of players don't necessarily understand, is parsing videos are, it's not that they're not real, it's more, parsing videos are their practice, or at least a display of skill. The parse measures improvement, because it's not just the one parse, it measures improvement alongside the possibility for a build. But it's not real in the way that you think it is. It's real, or it's not real in the way that it's presented. And maybe some presented that way more than others, but like nonetheless, it's just not. Like 125k DPS, that's cool, but like you get all, I'm sorry, I get irritated talking about it. You get all the buffs from the trial dummy. You get, because all the parse videos are always with a trial dummy, you get all the buffs from that. You get, to stand still, it's not really hitting you back. Snake seen me, so I'm gonna go over and kill it. Anyhow, so it's just not, it's a perfect case scenario is what it is, which is fine. That's, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. To be the best, that's the other thing. So like, people watch build videos, right? Like, we have build videos. The build videos are really meant to be like starting points. It's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not like, I could put a build video up for this build that I'm working with right now, working my way through this dungeon with it right now, and there's a good chance that the people that watch the video cannot produce the same that I can. And I'm not even the best. I'm not saying I'm the best by any means. Not by any means necessary. But what I can say is this build is set to my playstyle. I understand it. I understand what makes it tick. So that changes things a little bit, because I know how to play the build. Do I play it perfectly? No. But I know how to play the build, and that's important. I built it. I know what's going on with it. So, I'm going to do a little bit better than somebody who just picks it up and tries to reproduce what it is that I'm doing. The other thing that you can tell, talking about parses and things like that, the other thing, comparing Spy's video with his warden and the parses, is that when you run, like, let's say you queue into a random daily, right? Queue into a random daily dungeon. What happens? Like, I can reliably run 30k DPS, if not more. And like I said, I'm not anywhere near worked out like I should be. Well, I can get back on my feet here. Anyway, I can run 30k DPS, and that is like 65% of the damage going on in the dungeon. Now, why is that? Well, it's because meta, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. There's a whole lot that goes into that. See, like I just heavy attacked, and they say heavy attack, right? But when should you heavy attack? You should heavy attack. Number one is heavy after a heavy, right? If you get hit by a heavy attack and you block it, you should probably heavy attack yourself. That is your best opportunity to do that. But there's, I guess, the point that I'm trying to make with meta is that there's a lot of variables that go into what is meta exactly. What, you know, oh, I didn't get the piece I was after. God dang it, I didn't see any freaking treasure chests either. Excuse me. Maybe it's because I'm talking. Maybe that's why I didn't see him. Hey, there's one. Let's go get that one. Ooh, and it's an advanced lock. I'm gonna look stupid trying to get this. My ledger domain is leveled up quite a bit. I can force most locks, but I'd rather not break a bunch of lock picks. Oh, more stuff that I needed or didn't need. But so there's a lot of variables that go into what meta is exactly. So, and I don't personally think meta is a good or a bad thing, and I don't think anybody should look at it like that. I think what it is often highly misunderstood, and due to that misunderstanding, there is just a lot of, I don't know, toxicity, animosity, things like that come along with it. And it's really not okay. It deters people from playing games. So I kind of got sidetracked maybe just a little bit, but I'm going to recap real quick. So meta is most effective tactics available. What meta is considered, it's set by the in-game community itself to be the quote-unquote most effective tactics available. So, what do you do with that? And what decides it? Well, the in-game community decides it, but there's more variables that go into it, right? Playstyle is like the number one thing, more than likely, at least in my opinion, that decides what exactly meta is. Because, again, are you trying for solo? ESO in particular is a game that has a lot of solo content. It has a lot of group content as well, but it also has a lot of solo content. Meta is not the same for both of those. And then when you talk about group content, meta is not the same in all group content. You have 4-man dungeons, like the one I just ran, and I was running this solo, by the way, so like I wouldn't be 4-man meta to solo a dungeon. Could I? Possibly. but there's a better way for me to go about making sure that I survive this dungeon. But anyway, there's 4-man group dungeons, there's trials, there's PvP, there's class race combo, there's so many variables that go into this. And what I feel like is a lack of understanding about that particular aspect of meta is, I think it turns into that toxic stuff and we all know, if you play games, it's not just this game. It's not just ESO, it's any MMO probably in the history of ever, right? There's a toxicity that exists around meta and off meta play and things like that. But what's not being taken into account is the fact that the play may be more effective based on the gamer's preference or preferred experience, which goes back to playstyle, right? That's why I believe meta hinges heavily on your playstyle and what it is, what kind of play experience you want to have. So, like I mentioned, Spy, he talks a lot, me and him talk a lot about how World of Warcraft was, now it kind of declined over the years and things like that. I never personally played it, so I can't go real deep into it, but things like gear score and stuff like that, that caused that game to suffer. And I've heard a lot of stories about that, and it's like guilds to let you in to their raids, their mythic raids and stuff like that, and I'm just using terminology, I'm basically regurgitating words that I've heard said, but they would look at gear score. Gear score did not mean like Spy in particular could meet the gear score, and he would do that, and then as soon as he got in, he would put on what he knew was going to give him the most advantage in his role in the raid. I mentioned tabletops, tabletop games. That's where it all started. All this that you see, all this stuff, all this started. All these games, they all started on tabletop games, Dungeons and Dragons, things like that. All it takes is a single thing to be implemented into a game. For example, another thing recently, I mentioned Spaldar Ruin. Here's another thing recently that has changed Elder Scrolls Online in particular. The fact that sets are now hybrid sets. Yes, there are bonuses, like most 2, 3, and 4-piece bonuses. There is a lot of them, one bonus will indicate, hey, this is technically meant for a magicka or stamina build or a tank build, because you'll either get a health bonus or a magicka bonus or a stamina bonus, or you'll get a recovery bonus for one of your stat pools. The damage bonuses are now damage bonuses, right? Most of them anyway. The 5-piece bonus is where it really comes into play, like Strength of the Automaton. Its bonus is for physical and bleed damage. There's Dagons out of the Crucible, I think is where it comes from. It's AoE bonus, right? So that's a specific type of damage bonus. There's War Maidens. Its 5-piece bonus is magic bonus, magic damage, and which is very particular. That's almost like a Templar thing, right? But for the most part, everything's hybridized. So now, guess what? Meta got shuffled because of that one tweak to how this game works. So, it's very finicky, number one. So hinging on it so much. Yes, there is a point where we've run, Spy and myself have run March of Sacrifices on vet. We didn't do hard mode because we were in the pickup. It was 3 of us, so we had a random. But we did Veteran March. We made it through it. And that dungeon is very much a mechanic check and a stat check. Very much so. So at some point, yes, it does matter. It's not a bad thing. It's what I believe to be a misunderstood thing. And then, and then there's this. Like, the other day, Spy put out, at the request of some, a viewer, Spy put out a build video for the build that he's running on the Warden currently, which does real well in, like, just straight up deleting trash mobs. Yes, he puts out damage single target as well, but he really shines in mobs, like with more than one target. It doesn't matter if it's just like 2 targets. He shines in groups of enemies. This sorcerer here is a stamina sorcerer, which I know sounds, sounds crazy, but it's actually a really effective build. And I'm wearing like beginner meta stuff right now because I am working on accumulating sets that come from harder content. So when that happens, then I'll be wearing this particular character will become like infinitely more effective in these types of settings. But like back to Spy's Warden build, like he put out somewhere it was like 45k, something like that on a raid dummy. Okay, so we know, like, if you play ESO and you've used a raid dummy for any reason, you know that you get all the buffs. You get every buff that like you see in a trial. You get all that. He was putting out like 45k, but it was a single target. And back to what I said earlier, that build is meant to shine when there's more than one target. But 40 to 45k is good, and you know how we know, like, I can say that and be right. Like, 40 to 45k on a single target is real good. Like, granted he had some buffs, but not that much damage falls off. Like, that 40k shows up in dungeons, in boss fights, with one target. So it's applicable, like 40k damage, right? It's applicable 40k DPS. Yes, it fluctuates, but there's a rotation, there's a buff system, he brings a lot of his own buffs, like, and him and I coordinate whenever we go into a dungeon, like, and are actually playing together. Like, at least the two of us are coordinating. If Solus is with us, or healer, he coordinates. So, like, then it goes up. There's a curve, but there's still a baseline, and that baseline shows up. And when it does show up, it is the reason I can say that it's good is the evidence is shown in the DPS meters, like the combat metrics and stuff like that, those add-ons, because he runs those add-ons. That was in the video. It's 60% sometimes. It's, I don't know, he was running, I'm trying to think of the dungeon. He was running a dungeon on his own. Sorry, I say on his own. He was running a dungeon. He was in a complete pickup group. So, like, I was not with him. I was present. I just wasn't in the dungeon with him. He was pumping out like 35k DPS and doing like 70%, 65-70% of the DPS. That says something. It's all this, like, you need to be doing 50, 80, whatever is a little bit crazy. Like, yeah, at some point numbers matter. Damage is king. I get that. Because when you look at in-game content where things are just straight up like stat checks, like they're not, it's not playing around anymore. Like most of the content, you just saw me run a dungeon by myself. It's meant to be a 4-man thing. I am farming this dungeon daily trying to get a set out of here. And it's infinitely easier, the grind is, because of preferential drop. But, like, I have built a character who can solo a dungeon. That's one type of meta. There's a different type of meta when you go looking at in-game stuff, like especially like veteran trials. That's different. You know, that's a whole different level. So like you gotta you spec right, and it's a pre-built group. You know, it's your trial leader is going to be like, all right, somebody's running powerful assault, somebody's running, you know, something or other. Like there's a list of like requirements that they want ran. That's a different type of meta. So, you know, and things, look, and it's something else I'm going to talk about, and I kind of touched on it a minute ago, or a few minutes ago now, is skill level. And I understand it's a taboo thing, like people don't like being told that they're not good and things like that, but these people that put out numbers, they work on it. Like, they work on it a lot. They work on it a lot. Because you can't just, like, here's the thing, go light attack weave. Try to do that. Try to do it perfectly. It's hard. It's real hard. And like, and I say that from the standpoint of I don't do it. You know, like I light attack weave, but I'm not doing it perfectly. Like, there is a way to do it perfectly, but you have to practice to do that. And it affects your DPS a good amount. You know, and that is kind of, that plays into meta, right? Because it is one of the most effective tactical advantage, like tactics available, is light attack weaving in between every skill. Often you'll see a combat metric like a report from it, and light attack is like the number one damage producing thing, especially if you're like your crit chance is high and your damage, you know, your crit damage is decent. Like light attack is up there, like it's in the top. So, you know, and that's where you see, like, that's one of the things that bothers me a little bit. Like I know I've put out one build guide. Specifically, I know Spy's put out a couple of build guides. And really what spawned this is a couple of comments that I had read in response to our videos, and I have no negative feelings or hate for or whatever for any of it. I just read it and I was like, I got to thinking about it and thought, you know what, like this is a conversation that needs to be had, because it drives off, like, at some point it will start driving players off from a game, and that's not, you know, I enjoy this game. There are other games that other people enjoy, and when that sort of stuff, that sort of like mentality starts to kind of permeate into the game, you start affecting the player base and run the risk of driving players off to new games, you know, to different games. And player base size is what tells, you know, ZeniMax is going to look at their player base and see how large it is and be like, all right, you know, this is doing good, we're going to keep working on it. Or they're going to look at it and be like, where's everybody going? Like, this MMO is now failing, you know, this game is failing. You know, it's one of those things that I don't think necessarily people consider. You do not have to be top tier, elite, you know, top 5%, top 10%, whatever, of the players that play the game in order to, like, play the game. You just don't. And if you are one of those, you don't have to trash talk the people that aren't. That's the other thing. Like, you know, I play and let's go back to variables again, and I know I'm kind of rambling on, but at this point, a little bit rambling on. Like, so this build is a solo DPS build. It's not a tank. I don't have tank abilities. I didn't spec into health. I'm not wearing heavy armor. I'm not doing that stuff. I'm not running a pull. I'm not running, hard CC. I'm not running that stuff right now. And I'm not doing PvP either. So, like, I'm a PvE solo DPS build. That's what I am. Now, can I run a dungeon with this in a 4-man group? Yes. I have survivability. I have things that make sure that I can stay alive because the group is not a pre-built group. It is a random daily dungeon. If I go into a somewhat pre-built group, I know I can change some things around and rely on the other players that are there with me. And then I don't have to worry so much about like doing everything myself. But it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things that it kind of gets, like, if you think about it long enough, it starts to get under your skin, or at least it does mine. And if you have any kind of conscience, I think, and if you have any kind of appreciation for, the work that went into making this game and the things that cause it or help it to be entertaining and fun and an escape for people, but then they come in and they run into this, oh, well, you're not playing this character right. Like, well, I mean, I can do all the content in the game, or at least all the content that I need to do in the game. Like, maybe I'm not going to solo a trial. No, I'm not going to do that. But you know what? I don't expect to do that. Excuse me. But everything that I want to do in the game, I can do it. I have a Dragonite tank. I can also tank. The mate is different for that. And guess what? It's different from a 4-man to a trial. It just is, because in a trial I'm going to have an off tank. So I'm going to be doing one thing, or I may be the off tank. And if I'm the off tank, guess what? Now I'm doing something different. But I'm still a tank. So I guess where I'm coming from, to wrap it up, because I don't want to ramble on too much longer, it's, this video's, it's the better part of, I know for sure it's over 30 minutes at this point, but I guess to wrap up, it's this. I just want to ask the players to, like, try to be a little considerate, I guess, and hopefully I'm reaching some, players that are newer to this game and understand that not all the players in this game are like that. It's just that negativity is often the loudest. So then you run into, you see that more than you see other stuff, and it's deterring. It just really is. And like, it's so deterring that I've been group lead in a dungeon tanking, and one of the DPS is whoever is just nonstop running their mouth about, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. Like, all right, number one, it may be the first time that we queued into this dungeon, and we're gonna figure it out, because like we can math and numbers and we played games before. Like, we may not have played this exact dungeon, but we've played some games. But it goes on so badly that, you know what, I'm going to vote to kick. And that's pretty much the only reason that I'm going to do it, is if you're being that toxic person who is just like, you know what you're doing. And then like, as we play through the dungeon, they don't. Or they're playing in a selfish way, like in a group setting. So I don't know. I guess that's probably, I'm gonna say that's all I got on it, because I honestly go on for 6 hours, 8 hours about this. and I really didn't mean for the video to be this long. I just kind of wanted to bring it up and get everybody thinking about it, kind of talk to the existing player base a little bit, and hopefully reach out, extend the olive branch to some of the new players that I'm sure have encountered that mentality in this game, and let them know, hey, look, not everyone is like this, and not just your buddies, like, because a lot of MMOs, you come across it because your buddy is playing it, and it's not just your buddies that are not like that. Like, there is a good player base. It's every time I queue into a dungeon, a random, it's for the random daily, I will get everybody's, more often, like 90% of the time, everybody that queues in is, hey, what's up? And at the end of it, when it's all over, everybody's like, thanks for the group, good run, stuff like that. Every now and then, yes, you do run into the toxic person that's like, hey, it's this. And I think a lot of that comes from like what I've been talking about. But, if I'm wrong, leave a comment down below, correct me, leave your thoughts on what you think that is. Leave your thoughts on what you think meta is. And how it affects how people like interact with the game itself. Is there, like, I think there's a place for it. Do you think there's a place for it? Like, leave your thoughts. We would love to read that. Excuse me. The weather is being real crazy where I live at right now, and it's kicking my butt. And I know it's been going on for a little bit, but this time of the year it's bad for several months. So anyway, yeah, so anything that I've said throughout this video, leave a comment down below. And I don't care if it's good or bad. It's because, listen, here's the thing. Like, if I'm going into a trial, I'm going to build for it, and I'm going to expect that everybody else built for it too. And that's fair, right? But if I'm not, if I'm doing solo content, or if I'm doing pickup group stuff, which is, the pugging, like if I'm pugging, which is, sorry, there's an inside joke, but maybe one day it'll show up on the channel. But like if I'm running a pickup group, like, I'm gonna be built a little different. Like, my character just is. He's gonna be built a little different because, like, not everybody present. It's possible that not everybody present is going to be doing exactly what they should be. Like, I've been in dungeons where, like, the healer is just not doing it. And that's fine. That's the reason I build different, right? Made it changes because now I'm in a pickup group. Now I have responsibilities. I have to do a job that I would not normally be doing if it was a pre-build. So anyway, that's my spill on the subject. Didn't mean to ramble on. I'm sorry for rambling on. If you made it this far, I deeply appreciate it. I know you didn't have to listen. I know you didn't have to take time out of your day and listen to me ramble on about the concept of meta and this and that, but I just figured, hey, I'm going to be going through, one of the daily routines that I'm doing right now has kind of been on my mind. I'm going to talk to the viewers. I'm going to talk to, hopefully reach out, some of the players that I haven't seen or aren't aware of the video or channel, and maybe some new players to the game, maybe some players that are in the game already and kind of are thinking, they're kind of teetering on, look, there's enough of this. I've seen it. I've had enough of this, and maybe help get them thinking about it differently, or so whatever, So anyway, you've heard what I've had to say. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about it. If you like the video, again, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Yes, it does help the channel. That's not the reason I'm asking. The reason I'm asking is to get the information out there. This is a community, or Spy Gaming TV is a gaming community for the gamer. We just want to get the information out to the players of the games that we feature on the channel. So, this has been Jack. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.